Good morning. I'm Angel Romero Jr. We welcome you to our Dodge City High School special assembly entitled Banner 200. This morning, we will take you on an adventure through the history of the Star Spangled Banner, hear from a couple of great speakers, and we will sing the Star Spangled Banner.
Did you know that 2/3 of Americans don't know the words to our national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner? And those who do know the words credit their school music classes for teaching them the banners. We in Dodge City High School Music Department have a presentation this morning in celebration of the 200th anniversary of our national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, which occurred on September 14th.
We will start with the history of the banner. Then the members of the madrigals will sing and reflect on the lines of the Star Spangled Banner to teach us why this national anthem is such a powerful song for Americans. Finally, we'll end with an entire school sing-along of the Star Spangled Banner, where we will be led by the Dodge City High School Music Department. Hey, now that's exciting. I bet most of you didn't wake up this morning knowing that you would be singing as part of an almost 2,000-voice choir.
Tonight, we celebrate the 200th anniversary of the writing of the Star Spangled Banner, which was written in a time of great national crisis. The capital of the United States had fallen to the enemy. Its most important federal buildings were charred ruins in the wake of the British occupation. There seemed to be nothing separating Britain's incredible military power from complete victory, except the small groups of scattered and disorganized militia. American morale was very low.
In England, around 1780, a song was published called To an Anacreon in Heaven, whose melody is thought to have been written by British composer John Stafford Smith. The words to this song were written by Ralph Tomlinson. Both were members of the Anacreontic Club of London. To an Anacreon in Heaven was their theme song.
The Anacreontic Club was a group of wealthy men who met to celebrate music, food, and drink. Essentially, it was a drinking song. The melody was very popular in America during the War of 1812, and several Americans wrote patriotic songs to it. The most famous of these was, of course, the Star Spangled Banner.
Anxiously awaiting news of the Battle of Fort Henry in Baltimore was a Washington, D.C. lawyer named Francis Scott Key. Key, born in Maryland, had visited the enemy's fleet to secure the release of a Maryland doctor who had been taken by the British after they left Washington. Key was successful in his mission, but he could not take the doctor home until the attack ended. So he waited on troop ships 8 miles downstream of Fort Henry. During the night, there had been occasional sounds of the fort's gun turning fire. At dawn, the British bombardment had slowed. Had the fort been captured, placing a telescope to his eye, Key saw the fort's flagpole. There he saw the large flag wave in the morning breeze. It had been raised as a gesture of defiance, replacing the wet storm flag that had been flown through the night.
Thrilled by the sight of the flag and the knowledge that the fort had not fallen, he took a letter from his pocket and began to write some verses on the back of it. He was later quoted as having said, "Then in that hour of deliverance my heart spoke. Does not such a country and such defenders of a country deserve a song?"
After the British fleet had withdrawn, Key checked into a Baltimore hotel and completed his poem, 4 verses in all. The first is the most famous, on the defense of Fort McHenry. He then sent it to a printer for duplication on canvas, and within a few days, the poem was put to the music of the old drinking song, To an Anacreon in Heaven. Both the new song and the flag became known as the Star Spangled Banner.
After the war, Key served as the United States District Attorney and wrote several church hymns. On January 11, 1843, he died of clemency while visiting his sister in Baltimore. Today he rests in Mount Olivet Cemetery in Fredericksburg.
The flag he so honored flies day and night, and at Fort McHenry as a reminder of those events in September 1814 that gave birth to our anthem and pride in our nation. In 1931, the Congress of the United States of America enacted legislation that made the Star Spangled Banner the official national anthem.
Banner. The original verses were known as the Defense of Fort McHenry. All 4 verses mention the Star-Spangled Banner in the second to last line of the verse, and all end with waving, for the land of the free, the home of the brave.
There have been thousands of renditions of the anthem arranged and played and sung each year. The Dodge City High School Magicals learn and perform it every year, but there are performances much more noted than those of the Magicals. Some of the most famous were Jimi Hendrix's performance at the 1969 Woodstock celebration on electric guitar and Whitney Houston's Super Bowl performance at Super Bowl 25 in 1990.
Now you've heard the story. To hear a couple of quick facts about the band. During the Civil War, the Union Army translated the song to German for help recruiting German soldiers. Since then, the Star-Spangled Banner has been translated to several other languages, including Spanish, Polish, French, Italian, Hebrew, Yiddish, Latin, and Native Hawaiian. The first sporting event to hear the Star-Spangled Banner was a baseball game in 1862 in Brooklyn, New York. The anthem was performed at the first World Series in 1903 in Boston. Many believe it was the first performed at the 1918 World Series.
Dodge City High School. We have invited 2 guest speakers today. First, a long-time Dodge City resident and veteran of the Desert Storm in Iraq, where he served our country as a United States Marine. Please welcome Vice President of Centerra Bay, Mr. Charlie Escalante.
But I don't know about you, but when I do attend those games, I do have the chills go down my back. They really do. And it's awesome that Dodge City High School can do something like that. Thank you. I'm not going to claim to be a hero. I'm just an ordinary guy. I have a daughter that's out among you guys here, Lauren Esquivel. Mr. Denver asked me last Wednesday to give a speech and told me 2,000 kids would be present along with staff. That's great. I was born and raised in Dodge City, Kansas, right here. Graduated in 1987. That's 27 years ago. Yeah. Who would ever think myself would go to war? Not me. I took an oath to be a United States Marine. To a Marine, honor is loyalty, dedication to God, country, Corps, family, and myself. I served in the Persian Gulf. After arriving in the Middle East, I did not know if I would make it back to Dodge City, Kansas alive, or be sent home in a wood box with the American flag draped over my casket, as you've seen several caskets being brought to the United States with the flag over this casket and the airplanes. After surviving 200 days in the Middle East, I always dreamed of traveling to Washington, D.C. My dream came true this past April. I was able to travel to Washington, D.C. and visit Arlington National Cemetery, where many men and women did not make it back home alive after a war they fought in, as I did. The silence across the National Cemetery was a meaning of rest. For those who did not make it back home to see their families and their loved ones as I did. I hope that everyone here will continue to show respect as Americans all across America and across the country, wherever you're at, when the Star Spangled Banner is played. Ask to stand and place your hand over your heart. So when that song's been played, you stand up, you put your hand over your heart, you remove your hats, and it's silence, just like it was earlier. The Star Spangled Banner is played, then you're showing respect to those men and women that are given freedom for you. And those men and women have given some, and some have given all, just for you. So each one of you can live in the land of the free and the home of the brave, the United States of America. In closing, I look forward to Dodge City High School Athletic Department allowing the Star Spangled Banner to be played prior to all athletic events in the coming years. And the last word I'd like to say is never forget where you come from. Thank you.
And now, Dodge City High School. Our second speaker holds a very important office in Dodge City. I want to introduce you to another longtime Dodge City resident and realtor for Coldwell Banker, who served the U.S. Army as a combat aviation crew chief, the mayor of Dodge City, Mr. Ryan Delphix.
Thank you, Amy. Good morning. Let me set my clock here. I have to do some of these speaking engagements to give you a certain amount of time, and they can only for you to stick to it. When I think about the Star Spangled Banner, I think of a thread that ties America together. A very small, elegant piece of fabric that, when duplicated over and over, is used to create something much larger and much stronger. Honestly, I never came to that realization until my time served in the Army. It was when I seen my first American that we carried off from the battlefield is when this really came to realization for me. From there, life really changed, and you really start to see the meaning, the value of everything in life. Let me explain how the thread work comes to be for the Star Spangled Banner. As pointed out earlier, 200 years ago, at Fort McHenry, our country was facing certain death from the British. They had overtaken our capital. And to demoralize us, they burned it to the ground to show us that their army was more powerful than anything we had put up against it. The British then spent an entire evening bombing Fort McHenry from their warships offshore. The military historians tell us the fort was demolished. The British were certain the Americans had deserted, as no man could possibly survive such a barrage of shells. When the shelling stopped, Francis Scott Key witnessed one of the most amazing displays of courage ever demonstrated by Americans. Tired, wounded, hungry, outmanned, outgunned, the few remaining Americans that did survive stood as one to face the British. In an act of defiance, Americans took down the battle flag that was torn and reduced to shreds and reduced it with that big, beautiful, blue American flag. As to say, is that all you got? Is that all you got? As Dodge City High School would say, we're all in. Fight on in the fort. And America, as we know it, would no longer exist. We wouldn't be here today. But the British had never been in a battle whereas the defeated enemy refused to quit and defy their mighty army. They turned their ships away, kind of reference. Here's an example. There's many examples. I'm trying to think of one that you guys could relate to. A rivalry game. Prior to the start of the game, both sides, you guys are now, I think, stronger than I were. When I was in high school in 78, it was dodge and football. Couldn't stand each other. Hated each other. Even threw things at each other's buses as they came in. The sheriffs had to escort us in and escort us out. Probably the ugliest thing you've ever seen, but we hated them, they hated us. Throughout the rivalry game, all the chanting that goes on about beating the other team, crushing the other team, beating the other team, in all honesty, we want to inflict pain upon each other. The band's out there playing, the cheerleaders are out there, the drill team, the parents are saying things they probably shouldn't be saying about the pain. And as Charlie said, over the intercom comes a voice. It says, "Will you please stand, remove cover for the playing of the Star-Spangled Banner?" At that moment, there's a thread that comes out of every one of us that ties us together. In just a split second, it doesn't matter whether there's 8,000 people at the stadium or 100,000. In just a split second, we are all tied together as Americans. And suddenly, defeating the opponent is no longer the focus. We place our hand over our heart and engage in the most inspiring song ever written. As an ex-combat soldier, I think about those that went before me. I think about those we brought home. And I think about those that unfortunately have to continue after us. I thank them, and I thank the families for the loss. You see, that flag that flew so boldly 200 years ago that defied the British lives lives on in each of us today. And on occasion, as necessary, the threads reach out and tie us back together by a mere bond of truth, courage, and persistence that we call the Star-Spangled Banner. In closing, I just want to say thank you for allowing me the honor to speak to you this morning. And my wish for you is that your thread of truth, courage, and persistency will never stop reaching out. Thank you again.
Most of us have heard the Star-Spangled Banner, or have even sung it, but what makes it so catchy? Why do we sing it at most sporting, civic, and religious events? Here are some Dodge City High School members to tell you why. Saul.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? This phrase opens the Star-Spangled Banner, and it's a very powerful statement musically. In a single breath, the singer descends to the deepest note of the anthem, and then boldly rises an entire octave. It poetically starts the song describing what he saw after a long night of bombardment, not knowing the fate of Fort McHenry. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming. He, still not knowing the fate of the fort, describes his last anxious feelings as the sun went down the night the battle was taking place. The singer's melody boldly leaps to the word proudly and descends back to the lowest note of the piece, musically describing the sun setting on the probable doom of Fort McHenry. So here the duality of pride and modesty are joined in one sentence. Also connected to the first sentence, one can connect dark and light, another duality between the twilight's last gleaming and
and dawn's early light. What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming.
Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous skies. The original beginning melody is repeated in this line. The composer repeats a melody to create power. Even though he was not the original composer of this melody, it is a tremendous marriage of words and melody. Again, he uses great descriptive words. Broad, bright, perilous. They show the duality of good and evil, and hope and treasure. Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous skies.
O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. Ramparts are hills, and the melody follows in an ascending and descending line over the word ramparts. The melody proudly floats onward, driving to the next phrase, which in this phrase proudly coincides with the words which talk about the brilliance and honor of the flag still waving over the fort that evening of the battle. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming.
And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air.
It takes energy to sing this phrase. It is one of the high points in the melody and uses descriptive words such as red and bursting, reminding us of our July 4th, 1776 independence and the fireworks associated with that day. This phrase has a lot of energy and fire to it. And what is fire? It is red and bursting. You can't sing this phrase and feel dark and depressed, as it is too high and too outward. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. This is a follow-up phrase to the rockets and bombs bursting in the air phrase. The bright glare of the enemy's rockets and bombs were what enabled Key to see through the darkness of the night. It also gave Key a sense of good and evil, another duality in the poem. He could see the good through the evil, essentially the rockets and bombs were lighting up the sky to show that the flag was still there. Key's poem is full of great emotions and opposites, which, after all, is what beauty is made of. Gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? In this phrase, modesty and pride show themselves in the line. It is a proud question asking if the star-spangled banner is still there. But on the last word of the phrase, wave, the two notes descend, showing that there is modesty in the musical phrase. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave?
O'er the lands of the free and for
In this, the final statement of the first verse, which we sing as our anthem, the rhythm comes and sounds strong and proud as it reaches the highest point of the song. Throughout the song, the melody goes deep, and it goes high, and it takes sudden and sharp turns. So when the singer finally reaches the last statement, an ascending scale takes us to the high note, the word free, which is what this country is all about. The singer feels like they went through something to get to these notes. The victory and the outcome of Fort McHenry and the flag that hung there can be heard in both the words and the melody.
O'er the lands of the free and so brave.
in the way in which we can honor the American flag beyond just the Star Spangled Banner. I agree with all of the comments that have been made this morning. It is a time when the Star Spangled Banner is played at whatever event that it draws us together for a moment in time. However, beyond that, I think we have a responsibility as Americans, as members of the state of Kansas, as members of Dodge City High School, to be a part of that thread that makes up that flag every day. The way in which we can do that is the respect that we have for our classmates, for our teachers, for the members of our community, for anybody who maybe doesn't think exactly the same way we do. Maybe they have a different opinion. The gentlemen who are here this morning as veterans, they put their life on the line to allow those freedoms to be in place for us today. Sometimes it's hard for us that are not active in the military, who have not been called to fight in the war, to understand the responsibility that we have as Americans. Here in this building, we can do that every day. We can honor that flag. We can honor each other by being respectful, by being tolerant, by being understanding of those around us. In closing today, we will call back members of the military who are here today to retrieve the colors. If you would please stay standing. Dodge City High School, students, faculty, I can't say that I've ever been more proud of us than I am of you today. The way you have respected our flag, this assembly, and all that it stands for is a true honor on my part to be the principal of this building. And with that, I can't thank you enough. What we did here today in this room, at this point in time, it's only exemplified and reflected by our actions when we leave today. So I would challenge you to take away from this assembly today the real meaning behind the flag and the respect that we have as Americans, as Kansas, and as Dodge City. With that,